Since we're starting a new unit today, you guys probably haven't had wire anymore, any wire. Is that creating a hole in your no? It's actually, what's that? Oh, okay. Well, I know sometimes people miss singing, especially performing, but I'm sure, I have not heard, I don't know when the Armstrongs are coming back. Tomorrow, maybe? Yeah, because, I mean, that kind of puts a halt on even like any kind of performances, student recitals, anything. In fact, I think student recital this Thursday has been canceled. All right, the next thing I need to do is I need to give you the new Unit 2 assignment sheet. So let me distribute that to you so you can see approximately what we're going to be doing and when we have midterm break and when we have our next test and that sort of thing. You bet. I think I do have some. In fact, if you want 100 of them to wallpaper your dorm room with, I can arrange that. So this now supersedes and replaces the first unit assignment sheet that I had given you at the beginning of the semester. And we are going to be doing, hitting the same 4 ear training tasks, main ear training tasks that we were focusing on last unit, namely rhythmic dictation, melodic dictation, harmonic dictation, and what I call real music or recorded music. Those are the main ear training tasks again. You can see that we have midterm break right around the 2nd week of March. So that comes right about in the middle of this unit. And tentatively, I'd like to have our next ear training test around March 30th, which is a Tuesday, followed closely behind by the next sight singing test, which is scheduled for Thursday, April 1st, and Friday, April 2nd. And when the time comes, just remind me as to who was able to take it during class time last test so that I can flip and switch and that kind of thing so we can be fair and even steering. Another thing I need to mention to you, and if you want to write this down, you're welcome to, but I don't know if you know, but the music department is hiring or having a videographer come to the department Thursday and Friday of this week. And to do some interviews, to get some videos, some footage, things like that. And I was told by my colleague who's arranging this that the videographer should be visiting us in this class on Thursday, just briefly. Certainly not for the whole class. But next class, Thursday, sometime during the 10 o'clock hour while we're doing what we're doing, the video person should be here. I don't know how long he or she will stay, but I've been asked to remind you or let you know if you could wear Wayne State attire or black and gold for Thursday's class. I know I would forget that. In fact, I'm going to try to remember myself to wear black and gold. But if you want to write that down or put it in your phone or something, because otherwise I'll forget. But that's supposed to happen sometime next class. So if there's an interruption or intrusion, just pay no attention probably to the person. We'll just continue on as usual, and he or she will get the footage. But if you would remember, and I'll try to remember black and gold next for Thursday's class. So that will be the 25th. Will be the 25th. All right. So for starting out this unit, we're going to get into the sight singing book. And if you could open up your sight singing books to page 48, that would be a good place to start. We're breaking ground for the first time into chapter 4 of the book. mostly because of the rhythms that are found in chapter 4. I think we've gotten through all the rhythms that were in chapter 1 of your sightseeing book. There are no isolated rhythms in chapters 2 or 3, so the next batch of rhythms is found in chapter 4. And that's found on page 48. The rhythms that we're going to be performing under the sightseeing book, this unit, for this new unit, are going to involve compound meter. And I don't think we have done any compound meter in Aural skills yet. So, this would be something a little bit new. Do you remember, those of you, well, you've all probably taken theory 1 with me, that in compound meter the beat divides into 3 equal parts? And therefore the beat has to be represented by a dotted note. A dotted note. I'm not going to go through the full review of compound meter, but just a few comments will probably serve as well. Traditional meter signatures, as you know, cannot convey dotted note values. And so compound meter time signatures convey information about the division of the beat, not the beat itself. So for example, if I have a compound meter signature of 6/8, this tells me not how many beats are in the measure, but how many divisions, how many smaller divisions of the beat are in the measure. And this number tells me what duration gets the division of the beat, or serves as one division of the beat. So, we know from theory, right, that a compound meter time signature contains a 6, 9, or 12 as the top number. Right? And how do you find the number of full whole beats in a measure with a compound meter signature? What's the short math equation you have to do? Say again? Yeah, no, I think you said it.
Divide by 2?
Not by 2, but divide by 3, right? Because if every beat divides into 3 equal parts, and we have, let's say, a total of 6 eighth notes in one measure, all we have to do is divide the top number by 3, and that'll tell us how many whole beats are in the measure. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. And that means the first 3 eighth notes form beat 1, the last 3 eighth notes in the meter form beat 2. Alright, so there's just a little quick review or rundown of compound meter. How many full or whole beats are there in 9/8? 3 beats, right? If you divide the top number by 3. This has 2 beats. And then finally, the other one that we have in 12/8, you divide the top number by 3, you'll know that one measure contains 4 complete, 4 full beats. So, when we conduct rhythms in our sightseeing book that are in compound meters, do we have to learn any new conducting patterns? And the answer is no. Because every rhythm that we're going to see is either going to still have 2 beats, 3 beats, or 4 beats. And we always conduct the beat. So on 6/8, we will conduct in 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. For 9/8, we will conduct in 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And for 12/8, we will use the 4 pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the one thing that's different about performing and conducting simple meters is that we always tap the division of the beat when we conduct anything. And with simple meters, you only have to, the beat divides into 2 equal parts, so you only have to tap twice for every beat, such as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But into how many divisions does each beat divide in compound meter? 3. So how many times do I have to tap for each conducting beat or stroke? 3 times. So this is a little bit new, right? Now instead of just twice for every conducting beat, we have to cram in 3 taps. But it's very possible. You can do, like if I'm conducting 9/8, I can go 1, 2. You hear the 3? 1, 2, 3. And if you start feeling the rhythm and the groove, you can lock it in, so to speak. I hope you can sense that and feel it. Okay. So, in fact, before I'm going to have you do this in a moment. There are several rhythmic syllables or solmization systems that are in current use, but we're going to use the following system for compound meter. We're going to say the beat, the name of the beat right at the beginning, and then we're going to say this. We're going to say 1 la li, 2 la li. And for 9/8 we could have a 3 la li, and for 12/8 we could have a 3 la li and a 4 la li. Okay. This system of syllables, it comes from one of your appendix in the back of your book. And I just have always used this one from the book, and I like this one. There are other ones that are in use that they can be used, but this is the one I'll use from now until you finish Aural stuff. Okay, so let's try this. Let's all try conducting the 2 pattern in 6/8, and let's just pretend that there is a repeat sign right here, so we can do it several times. Okay, first of all, try to coordinate the 3 taps per beat. So how about try a tempo of da, 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 da. 1. Keep going. All right, after this, we're going to say that measure. Here we go. 1 la li, 2 la li, 1 la li, 2 la li, 1 la li, 2 la li, 1 la li, 2 la li. Okay, that's good. And I don't know if I'm not a specific conducting expert here, but when you come down, there's kind of a point where you reach kind of the bottom and you bounce up. That's where you hit beat 1. So that's where you say 1. And then on the way back up, there's a place in the middle where you kind of change direction, and that's kind of where the 2 is precisely. So 1, 2. So this is synchronized, and we don't have this. 1 la li, 2 la li, 1 la. That's going to get you real confused real fast. Okay. So work on synchronizing this and getting it flowing together. Let's try a couple measures of 9/8. We won't speak anything, we'll just conduct some measures of 9/8. So everyone with the 3 pattern, remember the 3 pattern is straight down, then it's out to the right, and then it's up. Okay, so how about a tempo of 1, 2, 3. Feel the lilt. 2, 3. One more. Okay, thank you. And just for good measure, no pun intended, let's do a few bars of 12/8. Okay, so we know the 4 pattern, to the left, down, to the left, to the right, and up. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and one more measure. Okay. So we'll be practicing that a lot as we go throughout this unit. Now, I'd like you to look on page 49. I'd like you to look at one of the rhythms that is assigned for next class, and one of those rhythms is rhythm 4.3. I was wondering if we can read through 4.3, do our best to conduct and tap, but you can certainly iron out the kinks and get it all nice and smooth and even between now and next class, all right? So if you look at 4.3, you can see we're in 6/8 meter, but be careful, what beat does rhythms 4.3 start on? Starts on beat 2, right? So we can't just go in and say, yabba-dabba-doo. No. We have to get 2, yeah, on the way up, we have to start on beat 2, okay? So can we read through, by the way, do you see how we're going to say lollies? I hope you see that. Well, it'll become evident real fast. Let's do our best to read through 4.3. I'll give us a full measure plus 1 beat, and then we'll come in on beat 2 together. Okay? So I'll go to tempo 1, 2, go. 2, 1, lead, 2, lolly, 1, 2, 1, lolly, 2, lead, 1, lolly, 1, lolly, 2, lead, 1. That's it. How do you do with coordinating everything? That's something we need to practice. Okay? If I have, as you can see, if I have some beats that look like this, let's say this is beat 1, you would say 1, lead, right? Because you skipped the lull. But what if I had something like this? What would you say for that? And it's on beat 1. You'd say 1 lull, right? Because there's no lead. Yeah. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but in case you're not recognizing that, you know, this is like 1 law and there's no lead, and this, when there's no law, will look like as follows. 1 lead, and so on and so forth. Okay. Any questions about that? All right, so that'll get us started rhythmically in the sightseeing book this unit. And I do not have any rhythms picked out or assigned for you guys yet for a quiz. I'll get to that, if not this week, I'll try to get that to you next week, but you'll have plenty of time to do that before the end of the unit. The next thing I need to do is have us go back in the book to page 40. Our melodies for this unit and this class are still coming out of chapter 3. We're not quite into chapter 4 melodies just yet. We will get there soon enough. But since the melodies are out of chapter 3, please bear in mind that all the rhythms of the melodies in chapter 3 are still in simple meter. So that means we're still going to have to do the, when we're conducting or hand signing the melodies in chapter 3. Okay, so bear that in mind. I should tell you that the melodies in chapter 3, they're going to be in less common keys. Like for instance, if you were to look at the bottom, or that page 43, just look at the melodies. Look at the keys of the melodies on page 43. Right? What does the voice care? No. You just get the key, right? And you can, I mean, if it's in your range, you can see it. The voice doesn't have to worry about pressing down certain valves or buttons or something to get the key, you know, just sings. So that's cool. So we're going to have some really less common keys. We're also going to have some duets. And on page 40, one of the duets assigned for next class is 356. So I'm back on page 40 now, 356. What key is that duet, anyone? F, that's right. And I have in my notes, I'd like to, let's see, which line do I want? One line of 356. I don't know, do you guys want to do the treble line or the bass line? Bass line, okay. Can we all sing the scale first, and then we'll try looking at the bass line. Here we go. And our arpeggio, please. If we're singing the bass line of 356, 6, we would need to find out where sol is. And I don't know if I did this last class or last semester or not. Maybe just because it's been a while since we've done this, can we take singing the bass line in stages? In other words, what I mean is, can we just go ahead and speak the correct solfege syllables without any pitches? Can we speak those in rhythm? So what I mean is, if I give you 1, 2, you would say sol, do, ti, do, mi, re. Okay, can we all do that? All right, I'm going to give us 2 beats and just speak the syllables. So you got the syllables down. 1, 2, sol, do, ti, do, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, mi, sol, 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 fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, re, do. Good. Now, let's add pitches to that. No conducting or hand signs just yet. Okay. Don't have to do any conducting or hand signs or whatever just yet. Let's see if we can just do syllables with pitches. Okay, so same thing, starting on sol. Here we go, I'll give you 2 beats. 1, 2. Sol, do, ti, do, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, mi, sol, 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 fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, re, do. Easy it is to sing when you don't have to do this. That's the idea, right? When you graduate from here, you're going to see a melody that you have to sing and you won't have to do any of this and you'll be like, okay, same thing again. Can we add the tapping? Left hand tapping. I think that's the right key. Here we go again. 1, 2. Sol, do, ti, do, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, mi, sol, 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 fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, re, do. Okay. There's just one thing left to add, and that's what? The hand signs, yes. So maybe we should slow it down just a little bit at this point to get the hand signs. I don't want you to get purple tunnel or anything like that. All right, just do your best. Try to put the last element together. I'll slow it down. Tapping and hand signing if you could. Here we go. 1, 2. Sol, do, ti, do, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, mi, sol, 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 fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, re, do. Sounds good for me. I know it's not easy, but it really, really keeps everything accurate. The rhythm, the pitches with the hands, you know, it's all good stuff. So hopefully next class we can sing one, or depending on how much time we have, maybe both of these we can divide up and sing them as a duet. Wouldn't that, I mean, well, that's too bad. I think the videographer, I don't think he's going to take actually any sound. He's just going to take picture. Well, that's too bad. You could record us singing that too. don't know, maybe if we give the guy a Snickers bar, I'll record the audio for you. By the way, I should let you know I will not be bringing the bag of names back yet until next week. So Thursday I won't have the bag of names yet, but Tuesday next week, that's when I'll bring it back and start. Okay? All right. I think I spent too much time on sightseeing, but we got to learn the new stuff to get launched into the new unit. The next thing I'd like to do is go to some ear training, and you will eventually need your ear training book. But I've got some stuff I have some stuff to explain to you before we get into the ear training book. So I don't want to give you a page number just yet. Harmonic dictation. We are moving on up in the world of harmonic dictation. Last unit, as you know, we focused on hearing the difference between a tonic chord and a dominant chord, or 1 and 5. This unit, I want to add in one more chord, and that is the 4th chord. Adding the 4th chord into the mix will give us a handle on the 3 primary triads in music, 1, 4, and 5. They'll all be covered. We're only going to listen for the 4th chord in root position. So all 3 will still be only in root position, none of them being inverted. And let's just quickly, we know the notes in this class for the tonic chord. The notes are Do, Mi, and Sol. And the notes of the 5 chord are Sol, Ti, and Re. What are the notes from the bottom of the root position 4? Mi. Fa, La, and Do. It's too bad when you sing that Christmas carol, right? Fa, la, 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 la. It's too bad that they're not the actual scale of these Fa and La. I don't know if you've ever checked that out, but that's beside the point. But anyways, yeah, the 4th chord is Fa, La, Do in this key. I'm going to go to the piano, I'm going to establish a key, and I'm going to see if I can play some short progressions, starting with 1, then going to either 4 or 5, and hopefully after a little while you'll be able to hear or distinguish the difference in the sound. So, for instance, if I'm in the key of D major, and I play these 2 chords, what was the second chord? Was it 4 or 5? Here again. And so I have to listen to the bass. Do. It's not Do, Sol, but it's Do, Fa. Fa is a step lower. Okay? If I take the bass up, but use the same chord. What interval is that from Do up to Fa? Say perfect 4th. Okay, perfect 4th, Do up to Fa. Here comes the bride. That's one way to remember that. Okay. Now let me play 2 chords again, starting with 1. Second chord I played in that case should be the 5 chord, right? Do, Sol. So one thing that happens when I introduce or bring in the 4 chord is that when I start on Do and I move away from Do to one of these, there's going to be a leap in the bass. The question is, it's kind of tricky to tell. Is it going to leap from Do to Fa? Or is it going to leap from Do to Sol? That's going to be a really hard question and something to really focus on with your ears to listen to. Because we know that the 1 chord in harmonic progression, the 1 chord can leap to and go to a 4 chord, but it could also leap to and go to a 5 chord. It can go to either. And because fa and sol are pretty close to each other, one is a fourth above the bass, one is a fifth above the bass, it's easy to get them confused. But there is a difference between them. There is a difference between them. Let's also talk in terms of progression as to the 4 chord. If we hear a 4 chord in a harmonic dictation example, can the 4 chord go to a 1 chord? Yeah. Can the 4 chord go to a 5 chord? Yeah. It's allowed to go to either. The one thing, though, that is a restriction that you must remember is that if you're on a 5 chord in a harmonic dictation, can a 5 chord go to a 4 chord in terms of harmonic progression? No. Because that is, again, if you're not in theory 2, this might be a little bit new, but 5 will never move to a 4. Because this is dominant, this is predominant. It's always the other way around. The 4 must come before a 5. 5 certainly goes to 1 though. So when we're on a 5 chord in harmonic dictation, really the only chord that it can go to, except for maybe another 5, like a repetition of itself, the only chord that it should go to would be 1. In this key, I'd like to vocally arpeggiate our first, I think it's going to be the first time, our first well-formed progression. Let's sing a D major scale first with hand signs, and then we'll vocally arpeggiate that. Ready? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, si, do, ti, la, sol, la, mi, re, do. All right, now I don't go all the way up the octave, I just do the first 3 notes for arpeggiating this. Let's give this a try together. Do, mi, sol, mi. It feels a little bit different. Where's that pitch setting? Oh yeah, there's that pitch setting, right? One final thing, I think it's one of the last things I want to tell you about this. Now that we have a 4 chord in the mix, in a harmonic progression, what chords do you think, what would the Roman numerals be if you hear a step up in the bass? In other words, you hear one note in the bass, and the next bass note is just a step higher. What do the 2 chords have to be for those 2 notes? 4 and 5, right? The only way you're ever going to hear a step in the bass, for now, is when you hear fa with a sol. So if you hear a step up in the bass, you know that the chord for that first bass note is a 4. And the chord for the second bass has to be a 5. Because that's the only place we're going to hear a step so far. Until we get further on and add more chords to the mix and things like that. Otherwise, the bass is just going to have to either leap or be repeated. Stay on the same note. Okay? So this is very helpful. If you hear a step on the bass, up in the bass, you know what the 2 chords should be. The first chord would be a 4 chord. The second chord would be a 5 chord. All right, I think I better just start getting into the example in the book so we have a little time. Can you open up your ear training books to page 108, please? Page 108. Oh, I forgot to mention too, starting this unit, I want us to not only write down the bass notes with the Roman numerals, but I also want you to notate the soprano line. Where can I put that? Starting this unit, all future harmonic dictation homework, quizzes, and tests, I want you to listen for not only the bass line and the Roman numerals, but I want you to also use some hearings to write down and dictate the highest voice, the soprano voice. And on page 108, I'd like to go through number 9. 9 at the top. Number 9 is in D major, and that's the key I was using on the piano. And I believe they always give you the first chord. So the first chord in number 9 is voiced like this. There's a 1 chord D major. And we have a total of 3 measures. And there are 2 chords in every measure, except for the last measure, which is just 1 chord. We'll just skip singing the scale since we already sang D major and arpeggiated the chords. The first chord is voiced like this. There's the bass, tenor, alto, soprano. Do your best to listen to, by the way, if I ask you, before I start, should you listen to the bass line first or the soprano line first, or does it matter? Now that you have to write out 2 lines. Yeah, I guess technically it doesn't matter. Whatever you hear easiest or quickest, you could probably get that down first. But the bass line is certainly going to give you the most direction and give you the Roman numerals, right? Okay. So, whichever you prefer. Okay, here's the first hearing of number 9. It sounds like this. Okay, here's the first chord again. And the whole thing a second time. I think one more hearing should be good, and then we'll take a look at the answer and see how you did. So, last hearing of this progression. Did you hear your anchor in the bass 3 times? Good. So the question becomes then, where did the bass lead to the second chord, and where did the bass lead to or the second to last? Do you know where it went in this one? That's right. The bass left out a perfect fourth, fa. Because fa is in the bass, that means the Roman numeral for that chord must be 4. For the second to last chord, did the bass go back to the same lead, the same note? No. I hope you heard it was different. So that means this one went up to sol, which means your harmony there should be up. Now, the soprano started on a very high mi. I can't sing that high. But then it went up a step to fa, back to mi, back down to re, and then ended on do. One thing that I want to, if you haven't figured this out already, one thing that can be very helpful to you with the soprano line is this. If you hear re in the soprano line, for instance, and you're pretty sure that that's the right note, re, and you're not quite sure what the bass note is, could you determine what the chord is going to be if you have re in the chord? What's the only chord it can be? Right? If you're not sure what this note is, but you're pretty darn sure what this note is, chances are that it's going to be a 5 chord because re does not occur in the 1 chord or the 4 chord. And your soprano pitch can kind of sort of match the bass pitch in the sense that they have to belong to the same harmony at all times. The soprano and the bass. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, if you wanted to fill in the alto and the tenor line, would the middle pitch of each chord correspond to one of the inner voices or not?
Well, the inner voices, which I will never require you to write down, but the inner voices basically turn out to be just basically part writing, follow part writing rules. Right. So for instance, like the inner voices in this one, the alto turned out to be this. And this turned out to be a 5/7 technically, but I don't mind if you don't have that. And really once you have the outer voices, the bass and the soprano, the inner voices basically turn out to just follow standard part writing rules. So that was the entire progression. But I'll never ask you or require you to notate these. If you want to go for any alto or tenor voices, again, that's a little extra credit if you get them exactly correct. Okay, so you've got some harmonic dictation homework for next class. Please remember to do bass, Roman numerals, and soprano now for your harmonic dictation exercise. And that's all the time we have for today. So we'll stop there. Don't forget to wear your Wayne State attire 2 days from now.